The main character in our tale is Sang Zhi, a clever and charming middle school student who often zones out in class, preferring instead to doodle behind her notebook. I can relate, as I too used to be absorbed in drawing during school, though I wasn't exactly the brightest student. One day, Sang Zhi's teacher catches her sketching in class, reprimands her for not paying attention, and requests that her parents come to school the following day. After class, Sang Zhi's close friend Yin Zhenru comes over to her, and then a group of boys from their class beckon them. As soon as Sang Zhi steps outside, she texts her older brother, hoping he'll meet with her teacher instead of their parents. Unfortunately, her brother, who lives in a hostel, doesn't see the message right away. As Sang Zhi passes by the boys from her class, the leader of whom has a major crush on her, she receives a reply from her brother. He declines to help, leaving her disheartened. Ignoring the boys, Sang Zhi heads straight home. When Sang Zhi gets home, she tries to charm her mom to avoid trouble during the meeting the next day. To her surprise, her mom reveals that her brother is already home. Sang Zhi rushes upstairs with a bowl of salad, eager to see him. Instead of her brother, she finds another boy whose good looks make her feel embarrassed. The boy is Duan, a friend of her brother's. Sang Zhi playfully asks if he is her brother who has had plastic surgery, joking about how her brother is always unattractive. Duan laughs and confirms that he is not her brother. At that moment, Sang Zhi's brother, Sang Yan, enters the room. Curious about the commotion, he learns from Duan that Sang Zhi thought he had undergone plastic surgery to look attractive. Offended by this, Sang Yan begins to argue with Sang Zhi, insisting that he's already handsome and popular without any cosmetic enhancements. As he storms off, Sang Zhi stops him, pleading for his assistance. Sang Yan refuses to listen, prompting Sang Zhi to start crying theatrically and falsely accuse her brother of hitting her. Her performance successfully draws their mom into the room, who immediately reprimands Sang Yan while Sang Zhi hides behind Duan, continuing her ruse. Duan, amused by her acting, jokingly suggests she should be considered for an Oscar. Despite Sang Yan's protests of innocence, their mom takes him away, leaving Sang Zhi alone with Duan. He asks what she needs help with, and Sang Zhi explains that her teacher has summoned her parents to school. Since her brother won't help, she asks Duan to pretend to be her brother for the meeting. Although Duan initially declines, Sang Zhi manipulates him by blaming him for making Sang Yan upset with the plastic surgery joke. Duan, easily persuaded, agrees to assist Sang Zhi. Before leaving the room, he asks for her full name, school, and class to prepare for the meeting. 3 years later, Sang Zhi is now a high school student. She wakes up and heads downstairs to get ready for school, engrossed in her phone like a typical teenager. Her brother, back home after a long absence, tries to engage her in conversation, but Sang Zhi chooses to ignore him, mirroring how he used to disregard her messages while he was in college. Sang Yan tries to emotionally manipulate Sang Zhi by reminding her of his long absence and suggesting she should be more welcoming. In response, Sang Zhi dances the fortnight dance around him to embarrass him, but to her surprise, Sang Yan actually enjoys the performance. They then share breakfast together, and Sang Yan asks his dad for permission to borrow the car to move his belongings from his old hostel to a new dorm he's sharing with friends. When Sang Zhi hears that Duan will be there, she decides she wants to join them and help out. Sang Yan is reluctant, but his parents insist, leaving him with no choice since he needs the car. After school, Sang Zhi arrives at her brother's hostel and spots their dad's car packed with luggage. She discovers a cute fox doll in the trunk and decides to take a closer look. Just then, Duan appears and playfully accuses her of being a thief. Seeing her secret crush after 3 years, Sang Zhi blushes and avoids eye contact. Duan recognizes her as the middle schooler from before, and Sang Zhi quickly insists she's now grown up. He teases her about playing with dolls, but Sang Zhi defends that some grown-ups do. She takes the doll with a playful smile, and Duan laughs as they start carrying the belongings upstairs into the dorm. When they arrive, Sang Yan is engrossed in gaming, and Sang Zhi scolds him for being lazy. His friends greet Sang Zhi, but Sang Yan shooed them away to prevent them from getting too familiar with his sister. Despite this, Sang Zhi and Sang Yan's friends introduce themselves. Sang Zhi asks if Sang Yan is really popular with girls at college, as he often boasts, and the boys enjoy teasing Sang Yan about his bragging. Sang Yan, annoyed, gives Sang Zhi a sour look, which she returns with a teasing grin. Duan realizes Sang Zhi is up to her usual pranks. Later, Duan leans in close to Sang Zhi to grab his phone from the charging slot, causing her to blush as he gets near. He gives her a smile before leaving the room, prompting Sang Zhi to decide it's time for her to head home too. Sang Yan offers to give her a ride, but she declines. In her rush, she accidentally leaves her notebook behind in the dorm room. That night, while reading a book, Sang Zhi gets a call from Duan, who is using Sang Yan's number to let her know about the forgotten notebook. Seeing an opportunity, Sang Zhi claims she has an assignment due the next day and asks Duan to write an essay for her to avoid failing. Duan suggests she ask her brother, but Sang Zhi insists that she can't trust him with such an important task. She pleads with Duan to help her, and although he laughs at her request, he agrees to meet her early in the morning at the bus station to assist with the essay. Sang Zhi is is excited about this arrangement. The following day, Sang Zhi waits at the bus stop for Duan, but he doesn't show up at the agreed time. This brings back memories of the time she had Duan pretend to be her older brother. At that time, Duan didn't arrive until after the school day had ended, which left Sang Zhi upset and nearly in tears. As she was leaving school, she slipped and unexpectedly found Duan standing before her. He apologized for being late, and Sang Zhi, relieved, welcomed him. She instructed him to stay quiet and agree with whatever the teacher said. Duan was a bit anxious about what kind of complaint might arise. When Sang Zhi introduced him as her older brother, her teacher was initially skeptical. The teacher pointed out that while Sang Zhi is intelligent, she's inattentive in class, and the complaints kept accumulating. Sang Zhi, however, was more focused on Duan than the complaints. Her admirer, Fu Jingqiu, came over and asked if the attractive guy was really her older brother. Sang Zhi didn't respond, and Fu Jingqiu eventually left. Duan then pretended to scold Sang Zhi to appease the teacher, claiming that she often praises him at home but doesn't pay attention in his class. The teacher bought the story, and Sang Zhi's apology was easily accepted. Back in the present, Sang Zhi waits for Duan at the bus station, and he surprises her by pressing a cold milkshake against her cheek. Delighted, they head to a cafe where Duan helps her with the essay. While he offers helpful tips, Sang Zhi's attention is solely on him. Their time together runs out, and Sang Zhi has to leave for school with her essay incomplete. As she departs, Duan hands her a completed essay he wrote for her, leaving her speechless. At school, Sang Zhi runs into Fu Jingqiu, who tries to impress her with his humor, believing that funny men attract girls. While Sang Zhi laughs with him, she's not interested in anything beyond friendship. Later, Sang Zhi's parents inform her that they are going to a function and remind her to take care of herself. After they leave, Sang Yan arrives to look after Sang Zhi as requested. He searches for her and finds her hiding to annoy him. Sang Yan invites her to join him for a meal, but Sang Zhi declines, saying she can cook and make instant noodles on her own. Sang Yan suddenly gets a call from his friends about their dinner plans. Sang Zhi, thinking Duan will be there, quickly changes her mind and eagerly agrees to join her brother. However, she soon realizes that Duan isn't with them. Instead, the friend they're meeting is a large man named Jumbo. Disappointed, Sang Zhi's mood lifts again when Sang Yan picks up Duan from his part-time job. Duan hops into the back seat and settles on Jumbo's lap while Sang Zhi keeps glancing back at him. Duan notices her glances and asks why she didn't greet him when he got in the car. He starts teasing her, asking if she's nervous around him and if she finds him attractive. Sang Zhi denies finding him attractive, but her blushing catches everyone's attention. Sang Yan becomes angry at what he perceives as Duan hitting on his sister, but Jumbo diffuses the situation by warning Sang Zhi that Duan flirts with every girl he meets. Sang Zhi agrees with this, which surprisingly hurts Duan's feelings. When they arrive at the restaurant, Sang Zhi insists on accompanying Sang Yan to the parking lot, but he refuses and makes her stay behind. Sang Zhi is unhappy about this, and Duan notices her distressed look. He asks if she's okay, and she replies that she's feeling a bit off and plans to use the washroom to relax. As Sang Zhi walks away, Duan notices that her skirt is stained because her period started unexpectedly. He quickly follows her to offer support and goes inside with her. He asks her to wait in the washroom while he and Sang Yan head to the store to buy some pads for her. Both are embarrassed and unsure about what to choose, but they manage to pick out a suitable option. They seek help from another girl to deliver the pads to Sang Zhi in the washroom, and she feels uncomfortable about the situation. Once Sang Zhi emerges, she avoids making eye contact with anyone and tells Sang Yan she wants to go home. He reassures her that everything is fine and that no one will think anything strange. He guides her to the table where Sang Zhi orders food along with everyone else. She requests noodles, and Duan, discovering she dislikes beef, removes it from her plate. Sang Zhi is touched by his considerate action. A few days later, Sang Zhi and her best friend Yin Zhenru arrive early at a cafe for a friend's birthday party. Sang Zhi is surprised to find Duan working there part-time. He greets them, and Yin Zhenru is also impressed by him. As they place their orders, Sang Zhi's attention is fixed on Duan, who notices and smiles at her. When Sang Zhi goes to pay at the counter, Duan jokingly says she doesn't have enough money and must pay a tax for staring at him. Sang Zhi calls his claim ridiculous, suggesting that if he were as attractive as he thinks, the restaurant wouldn't be so empty. Duan feels hurt by Sang Zhi's comment and decides to refuse her money, insisting that he will cover her meal today. Sang Zhi agrees and orders soup on his tab. As she enjoys her soup, she overhears Duan asking his manager for an advance because he's struggling financially. Sang Zhi feels guilty for letting him treat her. The birthday boy and his friend soon arrive, and Fu Jingqiu, recognizing Duan as Sang Zhi's fake brother, greets him warmly, hoping to make a good impression. Fu Jingqiu announces that they will continue the celebration at a karaoke bar. Before they leave, Duan advises Sang Zhi to head home before dark so that everyone won't worry about her. Sang Zhi agrees and heads to the karaoke bar with her friends. At the karaoke bar, Fu Jingqiu is in high spirits, celebrating his birthday and cutting the cake. Suddenly, he grabs the mic and announces that he has an important message. He pulls Sang Zhi up in front of everyone, intending to propose to her. Despite her attempt to resist, she stops him from going further. Although she understands that Fu Jingqiu has feelings for her, she doesn't share them and doesn't want to embarrass him by rejecting him publicly on his birthday. Sang Zhi exits the karaoke bar, and Fu Jingqiu follows her, leaving Yin Zhenru behind with a look of jealousy because she has strong feelings for Fu Jingqiu. Outside, Fu Jingqiu continues to trail Sang Zhi, and Duan observes the scene from his restaurant. Fu Jingqiu proposes to Sang Zhi, expressing his deep emotions and telling her she is his first love. Sang Zhi rejects him, explaining that she only sees him as a friend and asking him not to jeopardize their friendship by insisting on his feelings. Heartbroken, Fu Jingqiu begins to cry, and despite Sang Zhi's attempts to comfort him, he can't stop his tears. Duan soon arrives and notices Fu Jingqiu's distress. He comments that while it's okay if Sang Zhi doesn't reciprocate Fu Jingqiu's feelings, she shouldn't be so blunt in her rejection. Duan advises her to handle the situation with more sensitivity and consideration. Sang Zhi remains quiet after hearing his advice. She then shifts the conversation to Duan's financial situation, offering to help him if he needs it. However, Duan, maintaining his dignity, refuses the offer, stating he's not so desperate as to accept help from his friend's younger sister, though he appreciates her concern. The next day at school, Sang Zhi tries to talk to Yin Zhenru between classes, but Yin Zhenru pointedly ignores her. Later, the teacher announces the upcoming sports day and insists that Sang Zhi sign up for the high jump competition, as she usually avoids participating in sports events. After class, Sang Zhi approaches Yin Zhenru again, but Yin Zhenru acts as if she doesn't even hear her. The day of the sports festival arrives. Fu Jingqiu is participating in a race, and Yin Zhenru is cheering him on enthusiastically. Sang Zhi realizes that Yin Zhenru's silence towards her was due to jealousy because she likes Fu Jingqiu. When it's time for Sang Zhi's high jump event, she brings along her other friend to register. Fu Jingqiu shows up to wish her good luck, and Sang Zhi thanks him cheerfully and politely, following Duan's advice, which lifts Fu Jingqiu's spirits. However, Sang Zhi is surprised to find her brother and Duan working at the registration counter as volunteers. Sang Yan, upon discovering that Sang Zhi is entering the high jump competition, immediately disqualifies her, joking that even an elderly person would perform better. He laughs and tells Sang Zhi that he's doing this to prevent her from injuring herself. Duan, disturbed by the commotion, registers Sang Zhi for the competition and wishes her luck. As Sang Zhi prepares, Duan approaches her and places a cap on her head to shield her from the sun. He advises her to warm up properly to perform her best, but Sang Yan interrupts by taking photos of them. Sang Zhi asks him to stop, but it's already too late. Duan then grabs the camera from Sang Yan, telling him to stop bothering Sang Zhi. When the high jump event begins, Sang Zhi struggles. Her first attempt is a complete failure as she doesn't jump at all, and her second attempt doesn't succeed either. Sang Yan and Duan cheer her on, encouraging her to at least clear the mark on her final try. Sang Zhi takes a deep breath, steeling herself for the high jump. The spectators watch with anticipation, expecting her to succeed this time. However, Sang Zhi's attempt falls short as she stumbles, crashing to the ground and injuring her arm and leg. Sang Yan quickly rushes to help, lifting Sang Zhi onto his shoulders. Sang Zhi's former middle school teacher approaches and recognizes Duan as Sang Zhi's brother, asking, "Who's this guy carrying your sister?" Before Sang Yan can reveal the truth, Sang Zhi claims that Sang Yan is her dad. The teacher is astonished, remarking on the surprising family genes that make Sang Yan look too young to be a father of such grown children. Duan supports Sang Zhi's story, affirming that Sang Yan is indeed their father. Sang Yan is frustrated and upset by the false claim, particularly because he is still young and not even in a relationship. "Get off my back," Sang Yan exclaims, and Duan takes over carrying Sang Zhi. Sang Yan leaves in anger, and Duan brings Sang Zhi to the medical tent to tend to her injuries. Sang Zhi thanks Duan for his kindness, contrasting him with her brother. Just then, Sang Yan returns to take Sang Zhi home. As he carries her away, Sang Zhi notices Duan being friendly with other girls and feels like she isn't special. On their way home, Sang Yan gives Sang Zhi some chocolate to make amends for his earlier anger. They share it and head back home. The next day, Sang Zhi has extra classes and informs Sang Yan, asking him to pick her up later. He apologizes for being busy but assures her that Duan will come to get her. Sang Zhi accepts without hesitation. Later, when Duan arrives at Sang Zhi's school, he discovers she isn't there. He inquires with the guards, who tell him that all students have already left. Duan is puzzled, wondering where Sang Zhi could have gone. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Sang Zhi is with Yin Zhenru, who keeps asking if Sang Zhi has brought money. Sang Zhi confirms she has some but questions Yin Zhenru's insistence on money. She notices they're not heading toward a shopping area and learns Yin Zhenru is taking her to a cyber cafe. Sang Zhi has heard the cyber cafe is in a dangerous part of town and expresses her concerns about safety. Yin Zhenru takes offense and walks away, accusing Sang Zhi of being a bad friend who always abandons her. Faced with this emotional manipulation, Sang Zhi reluctantly decides to follow her. Meanwhile, Duan is still searching for Sang Zhi around the school, asking everyone if they've seen her. He shows her photo to people, and a man eventually recognizes her and points him in the right direction. Sang Zhi and Yin Zhenru arrive at a spot where 3 delinquent girls are bullying them. The bullies first target Yin Zhenru, who appears to be a frequent victim. They demand money from Yin Zhenru, who nervously points out that Sang Zhi has some. Sang Zhi, realizing she's been set up, watches helplessly as the bullies grab her purse. They find only $1.50 inside and mock her for being poor. They slap her lightly, threatening to beat her if she doesn't bring more money the next day. They also scatter her books on the ground and warn her not to avoid them, or they'll come to her school to punish her. Feeling betrayed and hurt, Sang Zhi is overwhelmed. Yin Zhenru apologizes for leading her there, but Sang Zhi angrily accuses her of doing it deliberately to get revenge. She believes Yin Zhenru is jealous because Fu Jingqiu pays more attention to her and accuses Yin Zhenru of trying to bring her down. Sang Zhi also points out that Yin Zhenru didn't check on her after her injury during the sports festival. Yin Zhenru tries to console her and apologizes again, but Sang Zhi yells that they are no longer friends and wants nothing to do with her. Sang Zhi walks away, deeply affected by the bullying experience. On the verge of tears, she spots Duan, who has been searching for her. He asks her what she's doing in such a dangerous area. Tearfully, Sang Zhi shakes her head, indicating that everything is wrong. Duan, deeply concerned, embraces her in comfort. After a long silence, Sang Zhi finally opens up about the bullying and her friend's betrayal. Duan's concern for Sang Zhi grows as he advises her to confide in her family and teachers for support. To lift her spirits, he takes her on a bike ride through an avenue adorned with cherry blossoms, helping her unwind and feel better. That's the end of the video. If you'd like to see a second part, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update and stay tuned for more exciting stories.